Let's talk about the Behringer RD-8 kick drum.
Hey, what you got in there?
Today's video, we're gonna explore. We're gonna check out the RD-8 kick drum with that magnifying glass and one thing you can do to make the kick more impactful, and I learned this from a West Coast producer, Infinite, is you can layer the open hat with the kick, and it'll make that kick hit so much harder because you've got the higher frequencies being triggered at the same time as the low frequencies. So it's filling up the whole spectrum with one hit. And yeah, let's check it out.
Listen. Musical.
In one of my other videos, I show that you can use the trigger out on the RD-8, and you can get more click with using the trigger out. Okay, let's check out another tip here. Okay, one thing is timing. So I remember reading the Mix Engineer's Handbook from Bobby Owsinski. And one of the things he said that you can really tell an amateur mixer and a professional mixer. And a professional mixer will make sure those reverb tails are just like perfect. So like if you time the reverb tails so that it goes out just before the next one hits, or being more conscious of that timing, it can really add to your mix. And so I followed the same kind of philosophy that he outlined in that book, but I applied it to the kick drum. So if you have two kicks that are spaced together, one thing you can do is just play with the decay so that the kick drum kind of goes out and then boom, hits, and then boom, hits. And that timing can really make it sound cool.
Level 1. Level 2. Level 3.
One thing with the decay is if you make it a huge kick drum, like really long, it sounds amazing too. But if you go with a shorter kick drum, just a little put, it can sometimes sound louder to our ears. So with the kick drum, one thing is like the RD-8's kick drum can go pretty low. So if you go with the lowest of the lows, it's going to sound the best. It's scientifically proven that the lower you go with the bass, the better. The trouble is the lowest of the low bass eats up a lot more headroom. And so to actually appreciate the lowest of the low and its trade-off for how loud you can get the whole sound going, it's worth considering. Another thing too is that the low frequencies aren't going to play as well through laptop speakers, iPhone speakers, stuff like that. So it might be worth experimenting with the pitch and just seeing what works best for you in your sound design journey.
The UCAN herbal drink uses unsurpassed quality, exact standards, and the finest ingredients to produce a premier food supplement.
Another thing you can do to really make that 808 hit as well is proper drum programming. So if the beat's too complex, it's not going to leave that space for the kick drum. I'll give an example. can make the kick drum really hit is just clever drum programming. So when the kick is hitting, be very conscious of any overlapping sounds or for the first few steps before or after the kick drum, because that can be crucial in how it is perceived. And another thing which I answered in my number one most question asked about the RD-8 video is, how do you get it louder? And make sure it's loud every step of the way. So make sure it's maxed out loud here, make sure it's maxed out loud over here, and then make sure it's maxed out loud here, and then make sure that the waveform is maxed out as well. So every step of the way, the kick is loud. Loud, 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 loud. And then on a track insert, I have a drum shaper, and I also use another compressor and overdrive with Sketch Cassette 2. The kick drum on the RD-8 is nice. One thing to know about the RD-8 kick drum is you can't... Let me put my finger on the knob just for visual. One thing is that you can't tune this thing and program that tuning in. Even if you have it completely mapped out to your computer on a DAW like FL Studio, you still can't program the tuning in. So that's one limitation of it that is pretty big. But what I've found is that for a lot of the analog stuff, you can't really automate it. Or it's hard to switch that usage of a knob and just remap it to something else. I'm not sure why. Do you have any tips to add about the Behringer RD-8 kick drum? Like, is there something you do to make it really slap? Drop a comment below.
Keep it in the pack. 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 Keep it in the pack.